I'm out in the garden to get some goodies for my meal today. You see, today I'm going to be making fajitas. With that, I want some pico de gallo. You know, so I thought I'd come out, take a look at my bushes, harvest some of my jalapenos. They're not like really big jalapenos, but you know what? They're still going to taste the same and they're going to do just as well. Good stuff. Now some of these are already turning red also. So I've got kind of a mixture here. And it looks like some really good jalapenos. Yes. Okay. And I think I have enough for my pico de gallo. Let me see if I've got anything else I want. Oh, looky there. Pimento. And over here, it's not very big. You know what? Got me a little bell pepper. A nice little guy. All right. So, we'll get these in the house. Oh, what else do we got here? Look at that. That's more of those big pimentos. I'm going to have some extra goodies to put with what I've already got. I've got onions and tomatoes that are already inside that I've harvested. So I'm going to enjoy. Oh, this is the best tasting meat ever. Great marinade, good cook. Hello, good morning. This is Texas Cooking Today. This is one of my tutorials, okay? Now, in case you're new to Texas Cooking Today, if this is the very first time you've ever watched one of my videos, I do 2 videos for every one recipe. One video is just the recipe, the same way everybody else does, you know, recipe videos. Here's the recipe, not much about how to pull it off, okay? The tutorial, which is what you're watching here, is all about how to make this dish. It gives you the recipe, yes, but it also gives you the details and the instructions and a little bit of tutoring to get pushed forward to make it just that much better. This is Texas Cooking Today, and today it is fajitas. Fajitas are delicious. Fajitas are celebration food, and I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. Let me show you here. This is what I'm going to be cooking up for my fajitas. This is what's called a skirt steak, all right? And you might be thinking, if you've never seen one of these things, what is a skirt steak? Or maybe you saw it in the store and you didn't really know what was a skirt steak. Okay, skirt steak. These things, quite delicious when they're done right. They have a tendency to be a bit fibrous, somewhat stringy in the meat structure. But when you prepare it the proper way, and you get the right marinade on it, and you get the right flavors going in it, and you cook it just the right way, it comes out tender, juicy, delicious, and something that you don't want to miss out on. So today I want to show you the right way to marinate it, the right way to grill it, and the right way to cut it for making perfect fajitas. Also, we're going to be doing some vegetables with it. I've got some other stuff here that I pulled out of the garden earlier that's going to make us some really good pico de gallo. And with that, oh, well, pico de gallo, some tortillas. You basically, when it comes to fajitas, are making a taco. Tacos are so good, and this is the best of them. So today, it's fajitas. Come over this way. Let me show you what I'm going to use to make a heavenly, delightful, delicious dish. Come on. Look at those gorgeous peppers. I've got some stuff out of the garden, which is like this, a little tiny bell pepper, but hey, it's a bell pepper. This guy right here is a pimento, and I've got some jalapenos right over here that I pulled this morning, some really cool stuff, and some tomatoes. Also, I did a video on these, and maybe I'll include that video on this one, okay? So maybe you'll have a chance to see that. Anyway, we've also got some big, beautiful, thick, meaty poblanos here. These are my favorite chili of choice when it comes to something that goes with fajitas, something to put on that taco. delicious. Now, if you want to go bell pepper, do so. But if you want to bump it up a notch in flavor, that's that poblano right there. Get you an onion, any kind of onion, red, yellow, or white. This time I'm going to use white, well, because that's what I had. A lot of times I use red for this dish, and it is a delicious way to go. And over on the other side here, we have our spices and what we're going to be putting them on that gorgeous skirt steak. So I have this guy right over here ready for our food. We're going to be taking this, I'm going to flip it over, I'm going to show you how I take off that silver skin. There's also another video I've done on this that's all about removing silver skin, so you might want to check that out. For our seasoning, we're going to be using salt, paprika, cumin, cayenne, and some lime juice. And no, I can't give you exact amounts. All right, I'm going to show you the proportions to use and how much to put on your meat for different effects and different flavors. And it'll be up to you to combine them your way. I'm going to show you how I like to do them for me. All right, and it's good stuff. So we'll remove that silver skin on this next. Before I get into that, I want to mention why. Why is this a celebration food? Okay, I mentioned that before. This is a celebration food because it came from, well, the cowboys would celebrate the day that they got lots of cuts of meat. In other words, you have that day of slaughter. It's a day where the cattle are all pulled in and they're prepared to go to market. And at that time, they would slaughter them in the field. They'd quarter them down in the field. And then they would take the cuts that were undesirable, like the tail and the skirts, which are the lower meat along the belly of the cow, you know, just under the ribs there. So those skirts were not that common, and this is what it is. It's long, striated kind of meat. And there were some other cuts like the head that a lot of times went straight to the cowboys. And so those folks learned how to make all kinds of dishes. I remember the first time I had head meat tamales. They were absolutely out of this world delicious. Today it's going to be fajitas though. It's the food that they would cook up quick because it was thin, it would spoil quick, and they didn't want to lose that. So that's what we're going to do. Now, first thing I like to do, get a good sharp knife. Now what I'm doing now is just aligning the blade. Again, another video that I have that explains the difference between a sharpening and aligning the blade. What the hone does is it just pulls that blade into alignment, so a blade that might seem dull but is actually still sharp becomes sharp again. And that's what that does. All right, so let's get into this now. I'm going to turn it, we're going to cut it a little bit, and we're going to trim it down. Let me get you a better viewpoint on this so you get kind of a better vantage on how to see how to do this. All right, the meat, we're going to prepare this. Now this side looks fine. See, there's nothing really wrong with it, okay? It's the other side that's the issue, okay? We've got this going on. Now you might think, oh, well, that's just fat. Leave the fat alone. It's going to add flavor. Well, now, that the fat has an issue. Underneath the fat, there's this layer of silver skin down here. This is our real issue. This is what we need to get rid of. And that's what I'm going after right now. So what I'm doing, if you notice, I'm sliding my knife under it going forward. And this is one of the reasons I use a nice pointed knife. I use one that's not too big of a knife. You can do this with a chef's knife, but you better have good practice with it. Now, if you notice, I pull up on this. Don't try ripping it off like you would on ribs, because a lot of times it'll tear this meat apart if you do that. On a skirt steak, we use a knife, and we gently turn the knife slightly upward so we don't cut into our meat, and it just goes right under that silver skin and helps us to take it right off of there. So as you can see, it doesn't take a long time, and it's not hard to do. Do yourself a favor, go ahead and prep your meat this way. Your family will appreciate you for doing it, number one, because there's less chewing. The meat won't seem so stringy or tough. So the more of this you can remove, then the better off you are in essence. Okay. So what this is silver skin is actually just what's referred to as connective tissue. All right, and connective tissue is stringy, okay? It doesn't really have any flavor to it. It doesn't do anything for us. It just makes the dish a little less pleasant when it comes to biting into the meat. Okay, and so what I try to do, there's an even thinner layer down here underneath that, but it doesn't really mess with you too much. You can go ahead and try to get this off if you want, but I find in the long run, that part of it doesn't matter. But this thicker silver skin, oh yeah, it matters. And once you get it out, seasoning is as easy as I take my lime juice and we'll put it right across the top up here. Now, because I have lime juice on the bottom of this now, I'm just going to set it up in the corner. Hit this with some salt. And it doesn't have to be super heavy, just the amount of salt you normally use on a steak or anything that you would grill. Now, on this paprika, I want to turn it lightly red with paprika, if you'll notice. It's an even coating. Paprika is not hot, and the flavor is very desirable for fajitas. So give that a try, it's great. Now cumin, absolutely a total necessity on these. Fajitas need cumin. It's an earthy, dry flavor that is very, very common to Texas. We put it in our beans and in a lot of other dishes. And cumin, well, remember, fajita started in Texas. Cumin is a part of this dish. Whether it's one marinade or another, it almost always falls into it. All right, and then very, very lightly with that, what they call red pepper. It's actually orange if you want to get down to it, but that's cayenne. See how light I went? You don't have to do more than that. I'm going to flip these over. I'm going to repeat that exact same process. Afterwards, I want to take these and put the whole mess right down into a plastic bag and let it marinate that way. You can leave it marinating open on a pan if you want, or in a plastic bag, or you can put it in a bowl. There's a lot of choices for you. I want to do it this way just because it's easy and clean. Now, let's go ahead, hit the other side. Gonna get that lime juice again. Oh yeah. And lime juice is so important to this dish because the acid is going to do the breaking down of that silver skin that's remaining, that thin membrane that remains. But also the flavor. The flavor is fantastic. Here we go. Just lightly with that salt. All right. Paprika. This is about, an hour to 2 hours total time to marinate. So if you want it really pungent and strong, go 2 hours. If you want it a little lighter, go 1 hour. I would say if it's your first time, do the 2 hour thing. See if you like that. I think you will. Most people do. And I've had a lot of people rave about my fajitas in the past and about how good this tastes. So give this a try. All right, get some stuff out of my way here. You know, when I'm cooking for myself, this is exactly the exact same way I do this. All right, and I do fajitas plenty. All right, I'll do it 3-4 times a year at least, and sometimes more often. Okay, so what I want to do is get the rest of this spice and this juice right down in the bag. And then I have a messy stove that's got a little bit of spice on it that I need to clean up. Doesn't hurt a thing. All right, put that in there. That wasn't too tough, was it? All right, it looks small, but it'll condense all the juices on it and push it together. Oh, now the marinating happens. Hey, we just go and make the other recipes, and when we're done, we get on to cooking our meat, okay? It's not a hard thing. I think one of the best parts of items that go with fajitas is the pico de gallo. It is my favorite of favorites. Now what I want to do is get some of this off to the side just for a moment. And I want to deal with the onion first. And I want not all of that onion, just a portion of it right there, a little less than half. This I'm going to put with my chilies, and I want to cook those up, pan fry them. This is the part that I am going to dice out. Now, whenever I want to dice something like this, watch what I do. I want to quarter this straight down. Here, 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 here. I don't go all the way through. to the, not all the way through up here. Now watch. I want to take these, I want to turn this one, and turn this one. I want to make the same downward cuts. Here, here. Now you might think all of that isn't necessary to dice an onion, but watch how quick and easy this happens. There, and that's that root end. I don't want it. All right there, that's our onion for our pico de gallo. That's the reason I do that cutting method. It is easy, it is smooth, and you get pieces of onion that are all identical in size. It works perfect. So I'll have you a bowl handy to put everything in. And what I'll do on my tomatoes, I will split these. Oops, let me go ahead and take off that top up there. I'm going to split them right down the middle, just like that. And I want to make sure it's all cored out, that there's no seeds up in there. And I'll do that over at the sink. You know, there's just nothing at all quite like pulling fresh vegetables out of the garden and having those that you can slice up for dishes like this. Now, all I did was just kind of separate the core and everything and remove most of the seeds. I didn't go out of my way to make it perfect. And these are so delicate and soft. It's unbelievable. Right back there. When it comes to jalapenos, these little guys, well, a lot of folks are just too scared of them. They say, oh, it's just too hot. Well, let me assure you, there is a way of removing heat from a jalapeno. And today I'm going to be showing that to you. Well, first thing I do, as you see there, I remove that stem. All right, I just don't need any of that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split these right down the middle. Okay, now, sometimes when dealing with a small item like this, it can be kind of squirrely, so be gentle, careful. I'll do that again. Right there. To remove the heat of a jalapeno, all you have to do is do what's called coring it. The heat of a jalapeno resides in the membrane that holds the seeds to the core, and the core itself holds the majority. Okay, so when I do this right here, I just literally ripped the heat, the capsaicin, right out of that chili. Now there is a slight amount in the walls of the chili, but only slight. If you've ever eaten pickled jalapeno, you will notice the heat runs all the way through, including the green part. The reason? The pickling process washes that oil, the oleoresin, into that green meat, and thereby heating it up. All right? So you've seen right there, all it takes to remove heat from jalapenos. Very simple. I'll do that to all of them. Once I get all of these ready and diced out and down in there, and we'll get on to that cilantro next. All right, now as we end this, with me doing this last red one, I want to mention one last thing to everybody. When it comes to doing this, some people say, oh man, you're removing some of the best part. I love the core. I love the seeds. Why are you doing that? Okay, you don't have to remove this for your pico de gallo. I'm simply showing it for those who do want to remove it, okay? Now I'm one of those that doesn't like really having all the seeds and all of this right here in my pico de gallo, so I just take it out. The next thing I want to mention when it comes to slicing and cutting chilies, the same way as with a tomato, you want to cut them from the inside out because it cuts through the skin so much easier. The skin is a little bit difficult sometimes to cut through on chilies. Take your time, and what we're looking for here are some small dice, okay? Right here. Oh, that is going to be good. Yes, sir. Now on our cilantro, I'm only interested in the leaves, okay? So I want to take the leafy portion, kind of fold it over a little bit, bunch it up, and I'm just going to go through and do a fine chiffonade. And that's just where we really super fine slice through leafy greens, okay? All right, now I've got just about enough. I get to where it looks like it's about a half a cup once I've done 2 medium tomatoes and then a half of an onion. And this makes a good balance on this. All right, put this aside. Now this, right there, our cilantro is all ready to go. So the next thing I want is to get this seasoned up, and that means lime juice. How much am I using? Oh, I'm not measuring it actually, but I would say about 4 tablespoons, maybe 3 to 4. This is as simple as get it stirred up. Oops, I forgot one thing. Looky there, some salt. Just like any dish, pico de gallo needs a little bit of salt. It's going to pull those flavors up. Okay. Oops, made a little mess. That happens sometimes. Don't worry about it. There we go. Fresh, homemade pico de gallo. It's time that I take care of my chilies. And one of the things I like to do when I'm making fajitas, I will char the skin off of my chilies. Now, depending on how much time I have and how much I care that day, I might pull that skin off and just leave it, okay? Just pull the excess off after it's been charred and leave it alone. Slice it up. That way you get this fantastic charred flavor with your poblanos. Or you can simply wash that off and go ahead and pan sear them afterwards like I'm going to do. And that works also. Both methods work great. They both equal different flavors and they both work fine. Neither is right or wrong, so just choose whichever you prefer. Scorching skins can be done like I'm doing here on a burner. Come on, there we go. And you can do this on a grill. You can do it in a broiler, so in your oven. Set it to a real high temperature. Get these as close to the broiler element as possible, the hot element that's burning. And then there we go. I can get them in the right spot. Once you've got them in, under a broiler, wait for it to start blistering. After it blisters just a little bit, don't leave them in too long. You don't want them to get soft. You're not cooking them all the way through. We're just removing the skin. After you've blistered them, put them in a plastic bag. That will sweat them, and it causes the skin to loosen up and it peels off very easily afterwards. So that's a cool way of doing it. They can go directly in the flame like this, or like I said, onto a grill. You can also use a torch and burn it off with like a propane torch. Any of these methods work fine. This is ready. So I've taken these and I washed them. As you've seen, there's a little water still left on them. Most of the skin is gone. What little is there is just little bits and pieces, kind of insignificant. And so everything is ready to go here. I just need to fix it so it's sliced up. And the first one I want to do is this cute little bell pepper here. And I'm looking to make cuts that are about a ½ inch wide. While this isn't a lot of substance, it's a nice bit of color. It's good flavor. And I'm using what I've got in my garden. It's all good things. Now these, normally I tell you when you're cutting a chili to cut from the inside out. But you know, when you've removed that skin, it cuts very easy from either side. Now these, about the same thing, about 3/8 to ½ inch thick. And now you can just cut the whole thing that way. We'll cook those up with all of the chilies all at the same time. If you want to get right down to it, with the exception of pan searing this, which happens at the same time I cook the meat, the work is finished. You wait for the meat to marinate at this point. When your guests arrive, you heat the grill, get things smoking, throw this stuff in a pan, throw the meat on the grill, and 15 minutes in, suddenly you're serving a dinner to them. They're wondering, how did you pull that off? So today I'm using my gas grill. Something I wanted to mention. There's a lot of folks that like charcoal. It's good. But you don't have to have a charcoal grill to get that flavor. I put wood in a smoker's box. I put it right on top of my burners. I have a center burner and a burner over here, so I get it from both sides. I put my grate right back on top of it. That's going to produce smoke for me, okay? All I have to do is when I'm preheating this, preheat it on high. When this starts producing smoke, which is usually 10 to 15 minutes in, these are already preheated and they're ready to sear your meat. That's when it's time to cook. So you get smoky flavor and a good, easy way to grill. Gas grilling is a good way of doing this, and folks, I've done it with a lot of charcoal too. I've just learned over the years, this gives you more flexibility. Okay, we have everything done. So we have meat marinating. We have our pico de gallo marinating. The vegetables are ready to go. This stuff can wait. It can just sit there. If you have guests that are coming, it's not a problem. Not a problem at all. This stuff will wait. When everything is ready to go, fire up the grill and heat this pan at the same time. Now, that's for me. This pan takes a little time for me to heat because it's got a really thick base on it. It's a very large pan, and it takes a moment for it to really heat up the right way. But it's a great pan to use when you're going to sear off stuff like this. And you need a lot of space and you need a lot of heat. And this is a great way of doing it. I have another pan that's good for this, but it's extremely long, and it's designed as a griddle, is what they call that. And it covers 2 burners. Don't really have that much to cook today. But anyway, that's how I do that. And this part of season 7 is all about timing, okay, and timing out meals and getting things to come together all at the right time. And this is a real easy one to learn from because A, we have something here, it's marinating. That can marinate for an extra 30 minutes or an hour, it's not gonna hurt. This has been marinating and it can just sit around, put a lid on it, put it in the refrigerator. It'll keep fresh for hours or even a couple of days. These items right here are going to be good for hours. Okay, so this is what we call garde-manger. Okay, that's where we are prepping everything in advance and chopping it all up, and then we get it into bowls. And once we get it into bowls and it's laid out, we call that mise en place, and that's everything in its place. That's a French term for this style of cooking. Works well. Timing in the kitchen really matters because here's the thing: you don't want to have this on the grill while you're busy trying to make this, because you're going to be late on the meat. In other words, the meat's either going to be overcooked or it's going to get cold by the time this is ready to go. Don't do that. Always do your prep in advance, have everything ready to go, and then when cooking starts, it goes really quick. Now the big question is, how long does it take to cook the meat? How long does it take to cook these? Okay, in this case, they both cook in very similar times. I can cook the vegetables for about 2 minutes longer than the meat. So if I start these first and then get this on, that'll work fine. These can also keep warm in the pan after they've cooked. It's not going to hurt a thing. This, once we've finished it on the grill, we want to bring it in on a board, and we're going to cut it into fajitas in a special way. So, timing. Again, it's all about timing. I'm going to be heating this, and it takes in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 minutes to heat up. My grill takes me about 12 to 15 minutes to heat up and to get the smoke rolling on it. So again, timing. I start the grill first, turn it on. Come in here, I turn this on. This will heat up first, so I start cooking my vegetables. The grill then comes to heat. I then take out the meat and cook it. I did a show recently on searing, okay? This is not one of those times where I'm trying to sear the meat, so I don't want to dry it off. I want to put it on that grill wet so that it has more of a poaching action. Even though we're grilling it, we'll get some grill marks, but it won't be as deep or as intense. And as a result, it cooks a little slower. I'm wanting that. It gives better effect when it comes to fajitas. All right, so we got our fajitas ready. I've just got to start with the heating things. I'm going to go out, turn on the grill. After that's on, I'll start heating this, and in a little bit, we'll get busy cooking it up. This is not hard, and at this point, this is what you want to do if your guests are just arriving, and it will look really cool for you to be bringing in the meat and stuff like that as everybody's getting sit down and relaxed and just getting their drinks. Makes a very relaxing situation. Now the next thing is serving. How do you serve fajitas? I like to just do it buffet style. I leave it out in the kitchen, let folks come through, grab a tortilla, and just make their own. Just that simple. Don't make it any harder than that. Remember, it's celebration food, it's fun food, it's party food. So have a good time with it and party a little. Alrighty, that grill is turned on. Now, this is, if you're gonna learn timing in the kitchen, you need to learn a timer, okay? These timers are the kind that are used in commercial kitchens. They count up or down either way. So I can set it for an hour and it counts down from an hour, or for 13 minutes, it counts down from that. It doesn't work in seconds on this one, okay? And a little bit, there we go. This one, I'm gonna set it for about 12 minutes. There we go. Turn that on. That's the preheat time on my grill. Minimum preheat time. And I can go over that, but it's going to take at least 12 minutes for me to get the grill grates hot enough and for that wood to start smoking. Now I know that because I've done this that many times. It also depends on how many burners I have running in the grill and also how hot it is outside. Is the sun shining directly on the grill? Makes a difference. In fact, almost 100 degrees worth. So there's my timer. Now at the same time that I'm waiting for that thing to heat up, I'm going to have to wait for this thing to heat up. All right? And I want to get this stuff cooked before I get that out there cooked. So this timer helps me for this pack here also. I know where I'm starting at, where my beginning point is. Turn on this. There we go. And I want to set that up at about a medium to medium high. There we go. And that's a huge burner. It's extremely hot. Medium high is a lot of heat. All right. Okay, so I've got everything heating up. Something I want to mention, when I put this on the grill, you know, if you'll watch my videos, if you've seen the other ones on searing, it tells you to dry the meat off so you get a perfect sear. We're not doing that this time. We're not going for that perfect sear. We're going to get some grill marks on here, but we're going to change the cooking action on it by keeping it wet. We're going to keep that marinade on the meat when it hits the grill. All right, it's going to change the flavor of the meat. It's going to change the way things cook, and it's going to come out really good. There we go. So that's ready to hit the grill, and I'm ready to get on with cooking this. 11 minutes. I just got to be patient. Oh, this in a little bit. Yep, it's starting to get warm. See, it beeps when it's 10 minutes. It beeps at 5 minutes. Chefs use these a lot and they're very helpful. This, once it gets hot enough, I'll drop some water in here. I get a good searing temperature. Then we're going to get busy cooking in that pan. Until then, I've just got to be patient. Okay, let's test that pan. Look how fast that sizzles off. Does that mean it's hot enough? Absolutely not. We need to get it a little hotter. When it's hot enough, the water I put in there will just kind of skate and roll around and it won't sizzle off like that. That's when you're at a good searing temperature, that really high, crackly, popping searing temperature. Now, by the way, the effect we're looking for with that water, Professor Leidenfrost taught us about this, and we call that the Leidenfrost effect. It's forming a vapor barrier between the water droplet and that very hot surface. That is what's actually going on, the physics behind it. But it helps us when it comes to cooking because it tells us just how hot that pan is. Now we're starting to get a little of that action there. You see that, how it's rolling around in there? It's not perfect. There's still some spots that are not quite hot enough, but it tells me that my pan is now kind of hit that temperature that it's going to give me good cooking. Now I'm expecting these vegetables to cook in about 10 minutes time. All right? And there's no rush on that cook time, but that's what I'm expecting. Now when I look at my timer that I set for my grill, we're at 6 minutes. Again, this is all about timing, folks. And I want this to all kind of come together at similar times. I've got to cut the meat also in addition to cooking this. So there's no rush on getting this in the pan, but I want to do it usually before 5 minutes of preheat is left on my grill. This beeps when that happens. So let's get this started. I'm just putting some peanut oil in here. I like peanut oil because it's a good healthy oil, but the flavor of it is just fantastic. All right, that means we have 5 minutes left. It also means it's time to get stuff like this in here. I like my onions in early because they actually are the one thing that takes the longest to cook. Remember, these are already par cooked. So there we go. We get that good sizzling going on. That is how we sear and to do it well. We want to have good high temperature. Now what that does when it comes to vegetables is it sweetens it. It causes a chemical reaction to occur in a lot of vegetables. The sugars break down and it becomes much sweeter. Onions become remarkably sweet this way, especially when you caramelize them. They get very, very sweet. So fantastic cooking technique, and enjoy doing it this way. You don't have to flip it or turn it very often. You're looking for some browning to occur. My timer has just gone off. All right, so I come out here with my meat, and the meat straight from the marinade right onto the grill. Just that easy. Now I've got meat on the grill. I've got this smoke that's coming up. Now on tender ends that are really thin, if you want on those, fold them over, folks, like right here. Just fold it up on top, and right here, I'm gonna fold him up. All right, now the reason I do that is to get a little more even cooking across the surface of the whole thing. It works, trust me. Okay, that's gonna be just a couple of minutes on each side, about 3 on each side for medium, and about 4 on each side for that to be a medium well. Okay, and if I want it medium rare, 2 minutes per side. Alrighty, my meat has just hit the grill. Now look at that, you see how we're getting that searing on there? That's what we're looking for. That's the flavor game right there. Something on that onion. Flip them over. Look at that. It's the exact thing that we're looking for. You get those brown edges, that is flavor. It's sweetness. It's delicious. And it's everything you should want for those onions. Okay? Here we are. Now, if it looks like it's getting a little dry, and sometimes it'll do that, you can just turn down that heat. Also, you can pull things up on the side of a pan, like these, if they're going to get a little bit dry too soon. I can do that. Don't forget a little bit of seasoning. My meat's going to be about 3 minutes in the cook. I took about a minute here. I set my timer for 2 minutes. That's going to be the remainder of the time on the meat. See how this works out? I'll flip the meat over, give it another 3 minutes. This is going to be finished about that time, okay? So I just turn it off. It will keep in the pan perfectly. It'll serve from the pan perfectly, and this looks great. It really does. So it works great for your friends, family, and it makes for easy cleanup later. So enjoy this. My timer has just gone off. It has been 3 minutes. I also turned off, looky there. Look at those grill marks. See, that's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. That's what we're looking for right there, folks. So like I said, you're gonna get some grill marks. It won't be perfect. Now I'm gonna open up those flaps, let them cook on the second cook, which second side, 3 more minutes, and they're done. I have just removed this from the heat. It's now ready. I have 3 minutes on the cook of the meat. Okay, this is holding, it's finishing the sear on the second side, and everything is going just according to plan. I'm using leftover heat in my pan to finish the cook, and I'm not going to touch these because I want that caramelization on the second side to finish it. All right, this is how we time ourselves in the kitchen. This is how we get things to come together all at the same time. I'll be putting the meat on the cutting board. I have everything else, for the most part, ready to go. Look at this. Oh boy, that looks good. Yeah. I have to admit, one of my favorite parts is the pico de gallo. I think it tastes so good with fajitas. Oh yeah. Turn this guy off. Oh yes. Beautiful, gorgeous, juicy looking. Folks, I don't think it gets much better. And look at all the smoke that's just releasing from that smoke box. It is so delicious smelling. So I've now got that smoky flavor incorporated in my fajita meat with everything else. We're in from the grill. This just looks so delicious. Look how much juice it's leaving behind. It is a very juicy cut. And look how easy that cut. Oh my goodness. Yes. So when I'm doing fajitas, always cut across the grain. You see how I cut blocks running with the grain, and then I now cut my strips across the grain. And this is important. You want the fajita meat to bite through nice and clean and easy. You don't want somebody to have to fight some sinewy piece of meat after you've cooked. You don't want to be embarrassed by that. So go ahead, cut across the grain like this. Do it the way a good professional will do it. And if you've ever been to a restaurant where they didn't do it this way, I feel sorry for you. That really sucks. Because frankly, folks, when it's done right, oh boy, them fajitas are so doggone good. Look at that. Right there. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. I just heat the tortillas in a microwave, and all I do is take a moist paper towel, wrap it over them, and heat them until they're steaming hot. All right, now a little meat. Oh yes, give me some of that. Over here, I like my poblanos, and I absolutely love my pico de gallo on fajitas. Now, folks, that right there, that is a winner. That is what good fajita should be. Meat bites apart easy. It's so tender. Delicious. Try this. You're going to love it. The recipe pops, and it's worth having. Also, if you would, take a look right below this in the description box. You'll see the website where the recipe is for this in PDF form. Please take a look at that. Those recipes are well written, and I spend a lot of time on them, getting them the way they are. Folks, thank you very much for watching, and please enjoy your fajitas and have a happy celebration.